What's up, guys? Ryan MacCarthy here with LowKick MMA. Joined by me today is a very special guest. We got UFC featherweight, former Cage Fury featherweight champion, someone that's going to be fighting in 2 weeks from tomorrow on the UFC Fight Night Lewis versus Blades card at the UFC Apex. Jared Flash Gordon, how are you, man? It's a pleasure to have you. Thanks for giving us some time here.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. I'm doing well. Feeling good.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, you got a fight in 2 weeks from tomorrow, so 15 days out against a tough opponent in Danny Chavez. How are you feeling? How's the weight cut? And how do you feel about Danny as an opponent overall?
The weight cut's good. You know, it's always a push for me to get to 45, but that's my weight class. Unfortunately, I don't have the the length or the height for 55, in my opinion, at least, or the size. But feeling good. Camp was amazing. Everything was smooth. As far as Danny, he's tough opponent. Comes to fight. He brings the fight. He loves the calf kick. He loves the high kick and mixes it up. And he throws heat. Stylistically, I think it's a great matchup for me. Obviously, he probably wants to keep it standing, I would imagine. And, everybody knows that I'm probably going to try to take you down and, punch you in your face and take you down and beat you up on the floor. And I don't think he is, guessing that I'm going to try something else. Everybody knows what Khabib's going to do,
Exactly.
So I think it's kind of like the same thing. But can you stop it? So, but yeah, he's a tough kid, man, and he's fought some good competition and he's got some good experience. So I think it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, for sure, man. It was funny you mentioned the calf kicks. I mean, that's something that's really changing the game in MMA here. So you saw it in the Poirier McGregor fight, obviously, and then you're seeing it pretty much every weekend on fight cards. So is that something that you and the team are really emphasizing on putting a stop to?
I mean, yeah, something that I focused on, but it's not. I don't want to give all my attention to it because why? And yeah, I prepared for it, and in my mind, the best way to stop it is to evade it completely, because even, when the guys are kicking low, even when you check it, it still hurts. It's not like they're aiming for your thigh where you check it. You get like good shin on shin. They're aiming for your calf, so it's kind of like coming around the leg. So you really have to point your shin directly into his shin to block it. So, I feel like evading it is the biggest thing I can do. Checking it is better than taking a flush calf kick, obviously, and obviously taking him down. Then I don't have to worry about getting kicked. So. But yeah, I focused on it, but I'm not like trying to give all my attention to it.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I know this fight is obviously at the UFC Apex in Vegas here. Your fight camp is in Florida. So I imagine that is that something that kind of is a relief for you to just go to Vegas instead of going all the way to Abu Dhabi like you did last time?
Yeah, definitely.
A little easier.
They send you first class or business class. Can you hear me? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
They send you first class or business class, but it's still 15 hours away, and the jet lag is the worst part. So yeah, I'm definitely happier just going to Vegas and then coming back. It's just short flight back. So yeah, for sure, it's easier. I'm not gonna cutting weight and traveling for hours and hours and hours. So yeah, I'm definitely happy that it's in Vegas.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I mean, kind of just to go back to your last fight in July in Abu Dhabi, of course, a very chaotic week for you, chaotic few weeks for you. I mean, your whole team was out. Your coaches and everything, had to stay in Florida. So you had to go alone, and of course, Paul Felder had to jump in your corner as well. So, how was that when you look back on it, the
Yeah.
experience? I'm sure that was, a stressful experience. You did get the W, of course. But when you look back on it, how was that for you? Having Paul in your corner as he was commentating as well.
I mean, the whole thing was a big pain in the ass,
Yeah.
There's like no other way to put it. Like there's just one thing after another. I got really sick and I got tested 3 times that week and I tested negative every time. So I was like, oh, I guess I just got a regular flu or virus. And then my fiance had a miscarriage. 4 days later, she tested positive for COVID. So I quarantined from her. I was quarantined out of the gym. So luckily she owns a condo not far from where we live and it was empty. So I was able to quarantine in there. I wasn't going to the gym. So I was just doing every practice by myself for like 3 weeks. I was also really sick, so I had to take time off. Then, the week before, Gilbert Burns and all my coaches tested positive for COVID. So his fight got canceled. They couldn't corner me. So like the Friday before I left for Vegas to go to Abu Dhabi, the UFC calls me and they're like, hey, Jared, so what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I don't know. And when we pulled it together, Paul was going to be there. He was going to help me anyways, with the weight cut and stuff. So I was like, well, I guess you got one more job. You got to corner me. Eric Nixick, who's I'm a buddy of his, he was there. First time I worked with him, like fight wise though, like he never held pads for me. We never did any, strategy together. And then Gary Tonin, who I trained with for years at Henzo's in New York, was cornering Ryan Benoit. I didn't even know he was going to be there. And when I got there, I was like, oh, Gary, what's up? And he was like, hey. And then he was like, hey, I heard what happened. Like, if you need any help. And I was like, well, I don't really have a grappling corner. I got Paul Felder and Eric Nixick, who's a striking coach. And Paul's, not a grappler, obviously. So he jumped in the corner and it was kind of like an all-star team,
Yeah.
And that was it. I got the job done. It was, in my opinion, a lackluster performance, even though it was 30-26, all the judges' cards, I just felt like I had no pop, like I had no whiz on my punches or kicks. I felt slow. I felt heavy. But that's what happens when you're training 2-3 times a day by yourself for 3-4 weeks and then cutting weight by yourself. Your coaches aren't there. There's no, I wasn't drilling. I wasn't doing anything that I would normally do. So, but I got the job done. The UFC gave me a new contract after that fight. So that was awesome. And here we are.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, seriously, one of the craziest, stories of 2020, honestly, was that chaotic week, a few weeks for you, honestly. And the way you pulled through is truly amazing, honestly. So, and then how about, what were you craving food wise after Abu Dhabi? Did you eat any specific cheat meals when you got back to the States?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I had there's a pizzeria down here. They're from New York, the owners.
Nice.
But they make a Sicilian pie that's it's like unbelievable. So I had that. Also, I'm half Sicilian. My fiance is 100% Italian. So her mother cooked for me. She cooked, the sushi, cheeseburgers. Those are like my 3 go-tos: pizza, sushi, cheeseburger.
Love it, man. Love it. I love those 3 too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then of course, you're training at Sanford MMA down in Florida, as we mentioned. So, you've gotten to train with some big names, some world champions as well. Kamaru, Usman, Gilbert Burns, that you mentioned before.
Yeah.
What's it been like to train with some of those guys down there? Just to name a few of them. Has that been, I can imagine that's been a career-changing, movement for you. So, what's it been like training with those type of guys?
I trained with lots of high-level guys in the past too, but it wasn't necessarily like. So I was at Rufus Sport and obviously there's monsters over there.
Yep.
Just wasn't my style though. And I had some ups and downs there. Luckily I was able to move on in my career and get to where I'm at now. And then I came to Sanford, and it's just like a perfect fit for me. The grappling, the wrestling, like we're super grappling heavy here, even though Henry Hooft is a striking coach and he's the head coach. But his style also for striking just matches me more than say Duke's did, Rufus at Rufus Sport. But I learned so much from Duke. I love him, and I took what I had to, and I had to move on. Not only I didn't just come down here because of Sanford. My fiance was living in Florida,
Okay.
So I was going back and forth. I was paying rent in 2 different states, so it was expensive, and it was just easier for me to be here. Plus, I mean, look where I live,
dude. Yeah, I mean, well, that might be a little better than that Milwaukee area, right?
Yeah, Wisconsin is like I think it's negative 25 there this weekend. They said.
God.
And it's like 78 degrees right now. I'm sitting on my balcony, So it just makes a lot of things easier. Yeah, but training with all these guys down here, man, it's another level. And like even today, I was at the doctor's office, and Vitor Belfort was there. And he was like, "Hey, can you give me a ride to my PT?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And his PT was like 25 minutes away. So, I've met Vitor a couple of times before, and we worked a little bit in the gym, but he gave me so much like priceless information just now for like 25 minutes of him and he's like, "Man, take my number, anything you need. If I can help you, I will." So and that guy's been doing this forever.
Yeah.
And he's one of the legends of the sport. So, I'm receiving priceless knowledge, and, not only about fighting, but, life in general. So, and Henry Hooft is the man. I love Henry. Greg Jones, Kami Barzini, our grappling coaches are phenomenal coaches and great people. I love them both. And I believe it's a game changer for me. And, now that I'm back at 45 and I found what I believe is the right fit for me, I know I'm going to go on like a big run here.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I mean, just just doing some research. I mean, Henry is definitely one of the best coaches in the world. So seems like you're at the right spot for sure. And yeah, I mean, it seems like based off your last performance, it certainly was a good decision on your part too. And then I'd love to get your thoughts on Usman versus Burns next weekend, the welterweight title, of course. Not even sure if you're allowed to give a prediction, but that must be weird for you to watch them go at it. I mean, of course they were teammates, or they are teammates. So that must be pretty crazy for you to see them going at it for the title.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's also pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
Products of Henry Hooft, two products of Henry Hooft. They both came up under him, and now they're fighting each other. So Kamaru is the man. Dude. He's such a generous guy, super nice. So is Gilbert. Gilbert is like anything you need help with something, whatever it is, he's there for you. My last fight on Fight Island, Kamaru was fighting, the Saturday before me. I was fighting that Wednesday. And he was texting me like 3-4 times a day. "Hey, what do you need? You need anything? You need help with anything? Come to my room. Let's hang out. You need to cut weight. You need someone to hold mitts for you," because she knew I was there, alone. And he's fighting Jorge Masvidal for the championship, and he's texting me as if, so it just speaks volumes about the kind of man he is. But I've been friends with Gilbert for years. He was my brother's jiu-jitsu coach before I ever met him. So I've known Gilbert for quite a while, longer than I've known Kamaru. And, he's nothing but gracious, generous person. He invite me over to his house, and, but this is business, they're going to go in there and they're going to fight. I think that, I think if it's a technical grinding fight, then Kamaru would win it. I think if it ends early, it'll be because Gilbert's power, or Gilbert has to win in the wrestling transitions against the cage. He can't get stuck against the cage. he has to in the transitions, like on the floor, and if he scrambles and makes it a scramble fight, then I think Gilbert can win. But Kamaru is a master at shutting people down. So
Yeah.
it's a tough fight. I think if it ends early, I think it's Gilbert. If it goes the distance, then I'm leaning towards Kamaru. So, but I think it's a great fight. I think it's like 50-50 for me.
Yeah, it's a tough fight to call. It's really a coin toss
Yeah.
fight, honestly.
Sure.
I'm pumped for that fight too. And then I actually saw you post on Instagram today. It's been about 10 years since your pro debut. I think to
Today.
today. So
Yeah.
man, what is that like? It's been 10 years. You as a professional fighter. What were your 10 years ago? What were your thoughts going into that? Were you like, what am I doing? Or were you like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
No, I knew I was. I fought as an amateur. I had
Yeah.
8 amateur fights. I started fighting when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend died like 3 months or in October before that February, and I took the fight on 4 days' notice. One of my teammates was supposed to fight, and I was training up at Bomb Squad up in upstate New York, where John Jones and Aljamain Sterling started. And the coach was like, "Hey, you want to take this fight?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. I'm ready." Meanwhile, I was only there for like a month, and I was coming off of like a major OxyContin habit. I was sniffing OxyContin for months before I got there, and I just kicked cold turkey. A month, trained for like a month. I was dope sick as shit, and I took the fight on 4 day notice, and I won. I dropped the guy, and then I choked him out. And then at that moment, I knew like I belonged in this sport. I fought as an amateur, and I did well, but after winning my debut like that, I was like, I could do this. I barely trained for this fight, and I'm like still dope sick. So I knew that the sport was for me.
Yeah, it must
And
be
10
crazy
years,
to look
yeah,
back.
10 years to the day. It's like insane to look. Yeah,
It
it's
must be
insane
crazy
to look
for
back
you.
and think like, holy shit, here I am. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and just a couple more things here, before we wrap it up. I want to get your thoughts on the featherweight division. Of course, that's what you fight in. So, would love to get your thoughts on. Of course, the top of the division is pretty stacked. You got Volkanovski and Ortega fighting next month. So, how do you see that playing out? That fight. I know that's a tough one.
I think that if it's a decision, it goes to yeah, it is. I think if it's a decision, it goes to Volkanovski. But I think Ortega could capitalize on a submission. But he looked phenomenal in his last fight with the striking. But who knows? Maybe a new Brian Ortega is here, because he looked ridiculous in his last fight. So, tough fight. If I were to have to put money on it, I'd give it to Volkanovski, but I think Ortega could win for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
Tough fight.
And then, this is a little odd question, but definitely something worth asking. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. This one is, you see all these YouTube versus boxing, stuff going on with the Paul brothers, Ben Askren, Floyd Mayweather, whatever it is that's going on. It seems like it's pretty much 50-50 with the fight community. Some hate it with the old school mind, and then some are like, let them make their money, whatever, just let them do it. What are your thoughts on that? Is this something that you kind of despise? It's kind of like a disgrace to boxing, or is this something that you're kind of just like, let them make their money?
I mean, sometimes it's annoying when guys that have never fought before get all this attention. I mean, granted, he's got whatever 15 million followers or whatever it is. But I think it also brings attention to combat sports. So people that normally wouldn't watch or pay attention are now tuning in to UFC stuff and to MMA stuff and to boxing. And boxing, I think, needs something like this because they are, even like, I watched the last Canelo fight, and I was like, this guy's fighting who's this guy? Like, they don't ever put the best guy versus the best guy unless, like Tyson Fury fought Deontay. That was a good fight. But then like even Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko, like great fight, but it wasn't like the most exciting thing I've ever seen in my life. So I think it needs some revival. I'm sure for the boxers, it's embarrassing and they're upset because they're not getting any play for it. You know, they're not benefiting. It's this what's his name, Jake Paul or Logan Paul?
Yeah, I think
Which one
it's
is it that's fighting?
I think Logan's fighting Floyd and Jake's fighting Ben Askren.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some weird stuff.
I didn't even realize. I thought it was only one of them fighting Askren. I didn't even realize. Whatever. So, I mean, you know, it's a money grab and it's a good way. It's a publicity thing. So let them do it. If it's going to attract attention to boxing and to combat sports in general, I think it's a good thing. You know.
Yeah, for sure, man. And then, of course, you know, what's your favorite division in the UFC to watch? Of course, besides the featherweights, which you compete in. So, is there any division that you specifically, you know, jumps out to you that you love to watch? Or
I thought about that. I mean, I guess I like watching the lightweight division. Obviously, I mean, I fought there, but obviously lightweight and featherweight's always exciting.
Yeah.
But right now, I mean, flyweight is killing it too.
Oh my God,
but,
they are.
What's been intriguing me a lot is the matchups that are coming in heavyweight. I think there's going to be some really good fights. Stipe Nagano, that's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, and you got Jones coming up too.
And even on my fight card, Blades and
that's right.
Lewis, that's a great fight. So I think, you know, there's some good heavyweights coming up, man. I think it's an exciting time for that division.
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, so I mean that's pretty much it for me on my end. Is there anything you want to plug before we head out here? Any sponsor, anything you want to plug?
Not really. I'm gonna have sponsors, but let me think. Violent Gentlemen Clothing, Violent Gentlemen Hockey Club. Shout out to them. My Bookie AG sponsors me. They're great. Always helping out. Real Athlete, hooking it up. That's it.